About a year ago, friends of mine asked if I could build them a wall of storage. They didn't want the kind of typical cube storage, they wanted something a little bit more visually interesting. They settled on this hex shape, and over the course of 6 to 9 months we figured out various designs, sizes, all those bits and pieces. It's taken me a couple of months on and off to build 8 of these half hexes and 1 of the quarter hexes. 5 of the half hexes have doors and the remaining 3 don't. I don't think I've made 8 of anything before, let alone 8 of things that actually have to stack together and be pretty similar. So this wasn't a super difficult project on a hex by, or half hex by half hex basis, but the overall project was a scale that I've not worked on before, so it was full of a lot of complexities for me. Each individual hex only has a few parts, but when there are so many of them, that added up to 54 individual pieces of birch. I couldn't get all of the 5 sheets needed in the workshop at once, so it was a slow process of breaking down a sheet or 2 at a time into rough sections. Once broken down into more manageable rough sections, I could start ripping it at the table saw. Thankfully, everything was a standardised 400mm wide. With the table saw blade tilted to make a 30-degree cut, all the angles could be cut. Using a tenon jig I made in a previous episode, I could cut the 60-degree angles by holding the workpiece vertical. This wasn't too bad until the larger base piece, but that's a whopping 1.1 metres long and 400mm wide. It weighs a fair bit. Without changing the blade angle, the rest of the pieces are cut horizontally on a 30-degree angle. Each joint got 4 dominoes, which meant 8 mortises per joint, 32 mortises per hexagon, or a whopping 288 mortises. Because marking that out would be insane, I made up a story stick with marks on it. I could easily transfer that to each piece, rather than having to measure out each mortise. At the router table, all the pieces receive a rebate for the back. The top and bottom pieces receive a dado for the dividers. Dominoing in the dividers would have made glue up impossibly difficult. This jig is based on the Wood Whisperer's exact width dado jig, so I won't go into too much detail in this video. Basically, the jig uses a piece of plywood as the spacing, and a guide bushing follows it along. This gets you a dado exactly the width of the material you've used, no matter what size cutter you have. Because of the very steep angles, some of the plywood tore out. While it'll mostly be hidden inside that angle, I covered up the tear out using Timbermate wood filler. Before glue up, everything was prepped for finish, as it is easier than finishing after glue up. Fun fact, this is the last project I used that sander on because it broke. Okay, maybe it's not that fun of a fact. I'm using a water-based finish, so I raised the grain first by spraying on water. Then, after that dried, sanded it back with 180 grit. Three coats of the finish are rolled on using a microfiber roller. I found this creates a very strong, durable finish that's very smooth. This is why I needed to make those drying racks. Each batch was at a minimum 20 parts. Primarily, this is so I can clamp across a joint. Clamping an angle is quite difficult. With F-clamps, they really want two parallel surfaces. They can't really be at an angle. So these coils have an angle block on them. There'll be a matching one on the other side, so the clamp will still be working on a parallel joint, which will pull everything together. These also have the added benefit of extending past the end of the workpiece, so it'll actually raise it up off the bench so I can inspect the entire joint much more easily because of the extra height. These are all set to the same height, so I just used a block of wood to set these. You'll also notice the blue painter's tape. This is on both sides of the joint. Ideally, I don't want any squeeze out to go onto the panel. It is pre-finished, so it's not the end of the world if it does. It's not going to absorb into the wood, but the more resistance, the better. Getting so many pieces to be 100% accurate is incredibly difficult with the tools and skills I have. So many miters that particular size in plywood is just impossible. A 0.2 degree error adds up to 1.6 degrees off over the whole hex, and it's just too large to shoot with a plane. As a result, some of the joints were a little bit gappy either on the inside or outside, so epoxy with filler was the obvious choice for gap filling and strength. I'm using West Systems 105 epoxy, slow set hardener, and one of their microfiber fillers. The epoxy gets brushed on the joint and in the mortises. Given the temperature at the time and the added filler, it really doesn't run that much. Everything gets pushed together with hand pressure first, lining up all the dominoes at once. Then clamps can be placed across the joints. Once out of the clamps, any squeeze out can be chipped out with the flush trim plane. This is a very slow process because the epoxy is very hard. The dividers need to fit into stopped dados, so they need to have a matching shallow cut on the ends. This was achieved at the router table using a straight bit and a stop. As it's a very tight fit, to help everything slide in, hide glue was used. This helps lubricate the plywood, unlike PVA, so it barely needed any more than hand pressure to be fully seated. With the dividers dried, I could rough cut the door to size using the template. Once I could get it jammed in with spacers, I could scribe the final bits to fit and recut. Five of the hexes have push to open hinges, and the Craig concealed hinge jig made short work of this. The key to mounting the cabinet side was to ignore the instructions that Hafal included. 10 packets of hinges, all of the instructions were wrong. The instructions were for full or half overlay hinges, not for inset. The hinge is just half of the push to open mechanism. These hinges try and automatically open, but to provide the latch and spring mechanism, a springer is needed. It's included, and I think that's the technical name. Finally, the backs can be cut to size in some melamine coated MDF. This was a very cheap option that provided a much better white surface than what I could paint. The backs are glued on with melamine glued and nailed into position. I don't have a wide enough lens to get great video or photos of the final product in position, so you'll have to excuse the awkward shots. Hopefully my friends are happy with the storage. As for me, I'm looking forward to making the next 10 projects with 90-degree butt joints. Thanks for watching.